Hi there, my name is Kay Moon and I'm a twin flame channel and Western astrologer, and this is a video about the new moon in Capricorn occurring on December 23rd at 5:16 a.m. If you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States, please check a time zone converter for your local time. A couple of quick announcements before we begin. The calendar is open for January sessions with me. If you would like to read with me to kick off your year, to have conversations about where the year is headed for you in love, money, business, career, family, home, or health, or all of the above, then the time to book those would be now. If you'd like to talk to me in the first couple of weeks of January, that there is some space left. And yeah, it would be great to connect about that. Let's get into this new moon. I spoke about it at first look. For those of you who are long-term subscribers to the channel, you know that at the end of each video, I will provide a first look at the next lunar update, my quick take on what things look like coming up, the energy we're moving into. I will provide that at the tail end of this video, so listen to the very end if you want to know about the full moon in Cancer that we'll experience at the very beginning of January. And to kick off our year, what kind of energy that full moon brings in. But this new moon in Cancer I spoke about a couple weeks ago, or Capricorn, we've got it here at the first degree of Cap, with Pholus being the closest heavenly body to it. And we've also got some aspects as well. We've got a square to Ceres, direct 90-degree angle from Ceres, which represents seasonality. We've got a square from Jupiter, which represents our growth and expansion. Thank goodness Jupiter is now retrograde and finally back in Aries and out of Pisces. And this constitutes a bit of a T-square energy because we've got two planets at 180 degrees apart, and we've got the new moon charging in at 90 degrees to both of them, and that creates what we call a T-square astrologically. Vibrationally, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. I actually really appreciate T-square energies because they give us a tightrope and clear directions for growth, lets us know where we need to grow. What's interesting about this one, though, and most astrologers you hear report on this energy will only speak about Jupiter's energy. But if you only speak to the Jupiter square, the full moon, unfortunately, what you end up getting is a bit of over optimism that misses some of what else is happening here. Ceres really governs seasonality. It governs beginnings and endings. She's the energy that taught humanity how to plant, grow crops, and move from season to season. And when we became agrarian instead of hunter-gatherer, she provided that intel. She's also the mother of Persephone. She's one of the mothers of the zodiac. And we really saw seasons come into play when she lost her daughter and had to go get her. When she lost her daughter to the Lord of the Underworld, what we saw is in Ceres' grief, life got sucked out of Earth. And so Ceres brings this energy of also loss, seasonality, recognition when one season is done and a new season comes online. And so we have a seasonality energy influencing this new moon, Jupiter's expansion, growth, and optimism influencing this new moon. But then we have Pholus here, and Pholus is one of my least favorites, right alongside Neptune, the two of them. If I could erase them both for all of us, I would, but such is life, I can't. Pholus's energies represent sacrifice. It represents, if you look up the mythology of Pholus, Pholus, you get a story that's much like Chiron's, about being in the wrong place at the wrong time, caught up in other people's issues and then needing to pay a penalty or a price for just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so all of this is going down, this kind of seasonality energy, this growth and optimism with this, wow, okay, a sacrifice is demanded here. What do I give up? What do I release? And for some of us, it's not, we don't actually get a choice when Pholus is around. Some of us will get to use this energy quite consciously. Some of us will be able to look and say, okay, yep, in order to get X, I'd like to give up Y. Like in order to get my health back, I'd like to give up smoking. In order to be able to buy a house, I'd like to give up spending what I spend sometimes, that kind of thing. Some of us will be walking into this with this kind of choice. And for those of us who walk in mastery with the energies, and that would be you, if you're listening to this, you are a divine creator being incarnate. Choice is a big piece of what this is going to be for you. However, for some, you will find that at this time, there are just certain closures and completions that there's just no other way to go about it. In order to move to France, you have to give up your South American home. Like if you want the cash to buy a home in France, you're going to have to sell the South American home. And it's just that kind of sacrifice. You can't financially keep both for whatever reason, right? And so the sacrifice will be kind of obvious, whatever it is that you need to give up or is necessarily by design of the circumstance, closing, completing, ending. You won't have to worry about things going sideways, but for the most part, this is an energy of, even though it's a new moon, which tends to represent new beginnings, there's a lot of completion energy to this with both Ceres and Pholus at the 90-degree angle in coordination with this new moon. There's a lot of ending energy here. And no wonder, we are closing out the year, and planetarily, there are several planets that are moving in such a way that are demarking a very new beginning for all of us, and the closing of one chapter and the opening of a new one. And so I will talk about each of those planets momentarily. But if this is already resonating for you, I'm just going to ask you to give this video a thumbs up. It helps the content circulate. When we have T-square energy, this T-square energy, the fulcrum point is here in Earth sign Capricorn. And this is all about structure. This is all about work. This is all about our traditions. These are some of the things we may need to give up in order to be able to launch into the new. Some of the old structure will have to be sacrificed so we could get into the new structure. If you have an old exercise routine, it's not working for you for where your health goals are, you may need to give that up, even though you do it with your friends and it's so much fun. You may actually need to take on something that is more aligned with your actual goals. And so that's a sacrifice, an example of a sacrifice. Because this is a cardinal T-square, the way to balance it, because it can feel like we're getting pulled in 3 different directions here. The way to balance it is in our free will to occupy the sign that is conspicuous in its omission, and that would be Cancer here. And we see Earth is sitting there. Earth's energy represents the energy of free will. It represents the energy of manifestation and choice. And so in Cancer, what we're talking about is being present to our emotional reality, our emotional truth, how we really feel about something, and giving ourselves permission to be emotionally congruent and act in alignment with the truth of how we feel. The more we can anchor into our emotional truth and really find that heart-centered compass, the easier this energy can be to navigate if in fact you are having a challenging time. This would be a time where we might be having the experience of, wow, yep, this thing is true. And dang, I wish I didn't know it was true. It can be a period of time of a bit of inconvenient truths that require a sacrifice. And there's a real potential that we could sacrifice the wrong thing if we're disconnected from our emotions. We could give up something that we don't actually really want to give up if we're disconnected from ourself. The magnitude of cardinal energy here, cardinal energy, cardinal fixed mutable, these are the modes. We talked about those in Star School several times during office hours. The modes are the way we respond to life. Cardinal energy's response is to begin again, to start anew. Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, you all are the cardinal signs of the zodiac wheel. And your gift to humanity is your capacity to build something out of nothing, to start again, to begin again, to take charge, to lead the new. And that's what we're being asked to do at this new moon, to give up an old structure, to move into the new, to do so with lots of faith. And there's a lot of faith energy in this. We're going to talk about that momentarily. But to also not throw the baby out with the bathwater in circumstances where emotionally it's just not aligned to fully let it go. Okay. It is easy or easiest at this time to take initiative to make changes. If that's something that you're recognizing, yeah, my life needs certain changes right now. This is some of the easiest energy we've seen in a long time around making changes in our lives, doing things in a different way. With the Pholus in the series, it's just easy to lose the plot a little bit and to take actions on distractions instead of focusing on real changes, things that will actually move the needle, actually get us to where we want to go. So I plotted out a few examples from what I've been seeing in my practice, and there's multiples. These are like common. So if you feel a little called out in these examples, I don't want you to take it personally. It's not you. It's this energy. This energy has really called all of us into a significant level of growth and transformation that it's bright lights and hard truths. That season with the eclipses, bright lights and hard truths is now coming to rest. And we're in a season of now needing to make some difficult choices and be prepared for I don't want to say consequence, but every choice and non-choice has a series of reactions that follow it. So it's important to understand that there is no consequenceless choice. We just need to be willing to choose the consequences we can live with, that we want, that we feel like are appropriate for us. Okay. So some examples of this energy playing out in real time that I've been seeing from clients is one where here's one. You've got ample data that says that you're stuck in relationships because you haven't worked out a past childhood trauma. So you show up hot and cold in relationships. 1 minute you're in, 1 minute you're out. 1 minute you're in love, 1 minute you can't stand the person. 1 minute you want to move forward, 1 minute you think you should just be friends. So instead of doing deeper therapy or focused therapy on the trauma from childhood, the PTSD or your attachment style, you sign up for a silent meditation retreat or go to an ashram to open your third eye more. When you've got an emotional challenge, that a spiritual solution is not going to work. This is trying to put cough medicine on athlete's foot and get it to heal, right? And the sacrifice is, okay, I've got to give up the way that I want to work on this because it's not working. I've sabotaged several relationships this way. I need to go ahead and deal with the root of the issue in a place where the issue can actually be solved. Here's another example that I've been seeing. You want to start a business, but you've been procrastinating on the big steps, letting small steps, quote, be enough for not just 2022, but 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. You're frustrated with the lack of progress, but you're also unfulfilled by the day job. So instead of getting a business coach who can interrupt the patterns of procrastination and self-sabotage here, you decide to take 2023 to feel into what you should do next, hoping something, quote unquote, feels right at, quote, some point eventually. The problem here is waiting for your biggest risks to be inside of your comfort zone when risks don't actually work that way. They're not comfortable, they're uncomfortable. And the sacrifice is giving up the pattern, the habit, the tradition, the routine. That's all Capricorn. Of things that it's like, okay, I've dawdled long enough. It's time to take bigger steps, bigger action. It's time for me to be willing to be uncomfortable. Here's another example I'm seeing. So you overgave in a marriage for 7 years, 10 years, 14 years, 20 years. And the established pattern for over a decade has been you give everything you've got to contribute to the marriage. You sacrifice, but the other person controls everything. They dictate where you guys live. Their name is on everything. Your name is on nothing. But the two of you have built a lot of things together. You spent years not standing up for yourself because you were more invested in being compatible with your person, which really in that circumstance is just compliant. And now the two of you are getting a divorce. And your soon-to-be ex-spouse hasn't changed. They're sticking to the routine, the pattern. I say how this goes. You go along with it. And they don't understand why you can't just go along, get along, so you can have an amicable divorce, letting them have 100% of everything you've built together for years. When you haven't stood up for yourself in years, now you want to stand up for yourself, which is good. And simultaneously, you can't stand up for yourself and simultaneously be attached to being nice, being amicable, being compliant. It doesn't work that way. You're going to have to sacrifice one of these two things. So you kind of get the idea here. Here's a final example I've been seeing quite a bit of in my practice. And so these are all kind of repeated conversations I'm having with clients. So if you feel like I'm singling you out, I'm not. I'm seeing this repeatedly, like back-to-back sessions with the same stories with people. Here's another one. You procrastinated on selling a house that was left to you and your siblings after your dad passed in 2020. Now we're knocking on 2023, and the housing market has cooled off in the United States. What you could have sold it for in 2021 or the beginning of 2022, that number is no longer available. Instead of selling it for what you can now and splitting the money evenly between you and your siblings and finding ways to remember your father that brings all of you together, doing his favorite things together, getting together on his birthday, making his favorite meals for one another. Instead of doing that, you just squabble over getting the house sold and bring childhood, who was loved most, and adulthood, who loved dad most, conflicts into it, and procrastinate on healing because you refuse to face the grief directly. And now you're paying through the nose and lost potential income, the value of the property going down, because you've conflated love with in the house with actually having the presence of your father there, which you can't have anymore. He's gone. And so there's delayed grieving holding the whole thing up for all of you, right? Heavy situations. The examples I'm seeing go on and on and on and on. I've seen wanting to go back to school, but procrastinating about applications, enrollment, and seeking loans and scholarships based on past fears and what ifs, mental health or physical health challenges that have been an issue and need attention, but you're not moving forward on them based on the past fears and what ifs. The bottom line that I'm seeing people struggle with as we leap into this new energy and take advantage of this new energy is feeling really blocked in the present because of past fears and what ifs. This kind of energy is loud right now because there's so much new beginning energy here. So much. And there's planets, Pluto moving into Aquarius next year, Jupiter just getting into the first sign of Aries, Uranus hitting that north node, constructing new timelines for all of us. Saturn gets into Pisces in the first quarter of next year. There's so many of the major planets doing majorly new things right now, that it would be very easy to miss the off ramp to a brighter future, a tomorrow that feels so much better than today. If you're busy licking your wounds from the past, trying to get your past to pay for, or trying to get your future to pay for your past, for some of these things with Pholus in the mix, we are going to need to cut our losses and let go. We are going to have to recognize some things didn't work the way we wanted them to. And that's a hard thing. And as we close 2022, let go. Stop trying to make it work when it hasn't. It isn't. The track record here shows it will not. Let go. Move into doing a new thing. Take a new response to the old stimuli, and you will indeed get a new timeline. And I'm going to break that down a little bit more. There's an ongoing energy here happening simultaneously. And that's this. Here's our friend Neptune, which clouds judgment and clarity. And our friend Pluto, which governs the resurrection cycle, the completion of cycles and rebirth. They've been talking to one another all year long. And they're finally wrapping up the major discussion that they have been having. Neptune about faith and spirituality and connection to the unseen and the unknown. Pluto being about letting go and moving on, creating completions and endings, but also dealing with our fears while we do so. The conversation is about wanting to and needing to confront our fears, but our fears can be a little bit nebulous. They can be a little bit hidden. And when they're nebulous and hidden with Neptune in the mix, they can manipulate us. In the light, this is recognizing the spiritual purpose and mirror in our fears so that we can transmute them. But in the shadow, it's just puppet strings, just getting pushed around by our past, pushed around by our fear, pushed around by being unconscious and dissociating. And that would be a way to repeat, to get right back on the same loop you've been on for the last 3, 4, 5, 10 years. There's a choice point here. But the choice does come with being willing to let go and being willing to step into something new. Okay. Mercury is in the mix and in play at this time as well, because Mercury is about to move retrograde, and there's that little yellow guy there. That's Mercury in Capricorn, preparing for the 4th and final retrograde of this year. And this is facilitating for us that there's a way in which, because Mercury rules Gemini. Gemini's over here, but Mars is retrograding in Gemini. Gemini is the sign of the twins, where there's 2. With Mercury, what we're getting is mirrors, especially in the retrograde format. We're getting mirrors everywhere at the moment. So if you've been feeling pressured to make good changes in your life, right? Like, okay, now's the year I have to do something different financially. Now's the year I have to learn how to start investing. Now's the year that I have to figure out how, like, why do I keep repeating the same pattern with different people in relationship? What is it? I'm the common denominator. At some point, you have to be accountable that all of it is a creation coming from you as a true creator being incarnate, right? And so, where you're starting to see the mirrors popping up, and there's a lot of them right now, you may, especially because this is a holiday time of year, no matter which faith you're a part of, you might be spending more time with family. Expect mirrors. Expect to see why you are the way you are, or how you've been reflected back to you through them as well. Okay. There's this now or never energy to it. Like, we can't afford to delay our new timelines any longer. And if you're feeling that way, I just want you to know you're in really good company. Most of my clients are having that sensation right now. And I have been too in my own world. What I had been referring to as a season of bright lights and hard truths, like I said, is now giving way to a season of tough choices for new beginnings. And the new beginnings, because we have so many of the major players, and we did just talk about this in Star School office hours, that the major players, many of them are moving into new signs next year. And to have them all shift all at one time in the same year is going to open up a brand new timeline for all of us, especially with Uranus, energy of the divine, hitting the North Node, the direction of growth. This is going to open up brand new timelines and give us the opportunity for a timeline jump. So I spoke about this I spoke about the timeline jump a couple of lunations ago, but for those of you who might be new to the channel at this time, I want to go ahead and just illustrate it. We're completing a major cycle. So I just want you to imagine what I'm drawing here is like a fractal of time. My legendary art skills on the trackpad and whiteboard return. This right here is the completion of the cycle, where we get back to where we started from, which is where we are right now. It would be very easy to take the same stimuli, respond with the same results, and go boop, right back into the same cycle, do the same thing for another 7, 10, 15, 20 years. For those of you who are like, nah, I'm good. Some things about that. I got the lesson, ready to move forward. For those of you who are ready to timeline jump, what you need to do is, this is where you take the stimuli, because the stimuli is the same. It's the same things that you've been experiencing. Your brother's responding the same way. Your job is jobbing the way it's always jobbed. Your money's doing the same thing. Your money's always done. Your family's doing the same thing. Your family's always done. Your exes, your loves, they're all doing the same thing that they've always done. The only way to get a new result and a new timeline is for you to not do the same thing you've always done. Instead, you got to come out here. You got to make a new choice. This is how you get on a new timeline, is right here when life is doing the thing that it's always done. Right here, instead of doing what you've always done, this is you make something new happen. You respond in a different way. The reason why this is so focused on choice and on what you do is because of this Mars retrograde here. Mars is about actions. The new cycle starts as Jupiter gets into Aries. Jupiter expands whatever he touches. First sign of the zodiac. New beginnings for all of us. Mars is the ruler of Aries, and Mars is going backwards right now in the sign of mirrors. and the sign of thought and discussion, and the sign of communication, but more than anything, exploration. Go see, look with your hands. Clarity comes from Mars, action, not thought. Okay. So this is about choices and exploration, behavior and actions. And we've got this Uranus and Taurus, earth sign. So this is about the body, the third dimensional realm, right? Uranus is about the quantum leap in the third dimension, right? Our clarity is going to come from action and choices. In order to get a new thing, we have to do a new thing. Okay. If you need some coaching around this, or you want to have a deeper look at any of this in your chart, now would be the time. This Mars retrograde ends on January 12th. Okay. And there's some spots left in my calendar for us to talk those first couple of weeks of January. Mars will stay in Gemini as it moves forward through March. But it'll be really ideal if you're already in the rhythm of responding and doing a new thing before the end of March, so that you have the clarity you need about how to get on a new timeline. So if you need support around that, definitely book some time. I'm over at kmoonastro.com. I've been telling my clients privately, sessions at the moment come with a bit of a warning sign. It's a lot of truth that shows up because I'm really good. One of my gifts is being able to see patterns very clearly for what they are. And I will not let you leave the session prepared to go back to doing what you've always done in response to this new energy opening up and you telling me that there's certain things you want, but you're stuck. So just be prepared for that, I'm going to tell you, okay, this is where I'm hearing and seeing you're stuck. And this is how you can leverage the energy based on your chart. Here are your choices. You've been warned. That's all I'm going to say about that. I won't say anybody leaves crying. That's not it at all. But it's my commitment to you that if you're spending the amount of money that I charge, and we only get to meet for 60 minutes, that you do not walk out the same way you walked in, that I am taking an action that I can take, what I can take to reveal to you, here's where you're tripping over yourself. Here's how you can get out of your own way so that you can move forward. Okay. And so I will say, most of them, sometimes I'm telling people things that are a little hard to hear but it's not things they didn't already know. And so if you're in a place where you just want good news, you just want sunshines and rainbows, wait till after March to talk to me. If you just need good news, I get it. I get it. Sometimes I can't talk to certain people that I coach with because I can't take any more challenge. I'm already challenged enough. But if you're really ready to take on the challenge of a new timeline, get in session with me because we'll be able to set that up. I'll be able to show you where to go, who to get support from, what actions you need to take, the timeline of it for you, and how to get on with a new pattern in your life. And this will be especially good if you've been stuck in love. As you know, love is my specialty. And also if you've got some challenges around money too, because Venus is so heavily featured in this energy, and we'll get to that in a moment. All right. This is mastery energy. I do want to make sure that I say that as we're opening to the new and surrendering what we've outgrown in the face of old stimuli and things that we've already seen, because we've got now Mercury retrograde in the sign of patterns and structures. That's Capricorn. We'll have Mars retrograde over here, the sign of our thought forms, right? That dictate our behaviors. Mars is behaviors. Because we've got two major retrogrades happening, there's going to be a lot of old stimuli showing up. There's going to be a lot of the old triggers showing up. But in order to get to the new timeline, we have to make some new choices. Okay. This is going to be especially true because we've got our friend here, Mars speaking to Chiron here in Mars's home sign, Aries, right? And so they're speaking to one another in a conversation that we call a sextile. They're 60 degrees apart. And when these two are coming together, there can be so much. And I'm certainly feeling it too, like inside of us. Mars and Aries are both about the self. There can be a lot of self blame, self doubt, self guilt, self deprecation, self retribution, self punishment. That's not what this is for or about. The pressure of this energy isn't so that we can self flagellate more, it's so that we can self transform as mastery beings. Okay. It's the stuff that's coming up now has been coming up as Saturn and Uranus have been in their squaring mode, and they just finished the final of 6 squares, the last of them a couple months ago. This stuff has been coming up. They were 6 times squaring one another since 2021. Saturn demands integrity in the sign of quantum leaping. Uranus demands the quantum leap in the sign of our third dimensional reality. When they're in a square, they're forcing transformation on us. And they squared 6 times since 2021, tapping us all on the shoulder, going, no, 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 change. No, change now. No, you cannot afford to delay anymore. Now, you need to shift now. And so this configuration, now that they're separating and they're no longer having that conversation, I want you to think back to what it was like when you were growing up. If your teacher or an older sibling or your parent had to ask you to get something done 6 times. If you weren't raised with a caregiver, I want you to think about what it might be like if the government needs to ask you to do something 6 times. The first 1 or 2 times they might be nice, but if they have to ask you up to 6 times to get something done, you better believe they're going to speak in a tone that they're not going to be ignored. And the heat, the pressure of it is going to be loud. It's going to be intense. And so this is what we're coming off of as we're moving into this heavy cardinal energy that's saying new beginning by letting go of something that no longer serves, sacrificing it, giving it up. Okay. The question, if you want to self-coach around this, I'm going to leave you with some self-coaching questions so that you can come out of, if any of you are stuck in the self-deprecation mode with this, meditate on it, journal about it, whatever works for you. Is what's the thing that you've been working toward, wanting, knowing that your life needs, that demands that you transform yourself in order to have it? What do you personally have to shift? For many, this is going to present as something desired, with a fear masquerading as logic as to why having that thing is impossible, it's unattainable, you can't have it. I want to be married, but I want a family, I want to settle down, but something's wrong with me and I can't figure out why. Maybe that life just isn't for me. No, that's bullshit. I call bullshit on it. That's fear in there masquerading as logic. And in order to be able to get to the bottom of it, you're going to have to be willing to do something you've never done to get some things you've never had. I want to start a business. I've always dreamed of it. Now I'm retiring, but I'm on a fixed income and I have to take care of my mom and I just can't do it. No, I call bullshit. That's not true. People have figured it out with way bigger complications than you have. Stop arguing for your limitations. As divine being, creator beings incarnate, those limitations are lies. And this is the falsehood of forgetting who we really are, our true power. And that's what makes this a mastery moment. because there's so much built up pattern and rhythm about the way just the way things are with all of this energy in Capricorn. And I got to say, thank God Pholus is here, because Pholus is the one that's asking us to just give it up. Give up the story, give up the rhythm, give up the pattern of the way you've always done it. Capricorn's tradition. Pholus is sacrifice. Give up the way things are so that you can have them the way you want them to be. The initiated, like you, who's listening to this, are going to look at this energy instead. They're going to see all the old stimuli and they're going to make new choices and complete the timeline jump via third dimensional anchor points of their new choices that are going to facilitate the opening of new energy. You are a divine creator being incarnate, and you can do this. So if you want some support around how and what your chart says about it, so that you can move in a direction with more confidence, then get on my calendar in those first 2 weeks of January. Okay. I'm over at kmoonastro.com, and the personal reading calendar is definitely open. Here are some other energies that are available for us to work with at this time. We've got Juno conjunct Neptune. Juno's our partnership asteroid. Neptune is fog and illusion, but it's also faith and creativity. There can be in shadow a lot of relationship confusion and unclarity, but in the light, a lot of faith and deep spiritual connection. These two are trine, meaning 120 degrees apart from Pallas and Lilith up there. We talked about those this week in Star School 201. If you've joined Star School 201, you got introduced to these asteroids this week with this week's content. Pallas, this one, and Lilith here. Okay. This is about a recognizing that we do need to be protective of our emotional process with all of the water energy. Water represents emotions, just to make sure that we're not negotiating against ourselves or arguing for our limitations, like agreeing with depression and defeat and loss and futility in relationships, or our own jacked up stories about who we are that reinforce not starting the business, reinforce bad choices and crappy timeline experiences. This is the time to lean into our faith with that Neptunian energy about what's possible, not sink into defeat or depression about where we've wrong turned in the past. Okay. That Neptune can be leveraged as faith instead of fog, and that will allow us to really come back from and release some of the past. Let yourself forgive yourself. Let yourself wash yourself of the past. It's done. You can't fix it. It's over. There's nothing you can do right now in this moment that's ever going to make the thing that has you held back not have happened. Nothing. So the only thing you can do is just, okay, that happened. Who do I want to be today? Keep the lesson, release the loss energy. Neptune allows us to release and let go. Keep the faith. That's Neptune. Release the failure energy, especially in partnerships, business or romantic. If you've been scared to lean into partnership, that Juno here is giving us that opportunity to do so. Our perfection isn't what's required. It's our presence. It's our will to show up, our willingness to be on the dance floor. Okay. And this is going to be really critical to remember with Venus square Chiron at this time. So here's Venus. She more traditionally represents love and connection. And for most astrologers, I work more with Juno. Chiron here, they're at this 90-degree angle a bit. And they have been for a few weeks now. With these two in a 90-degree angle a bit, this energy together, and also Venus sextiling Nessus. So here's Nessus. Nessus is obsession, it's OCD, it's rumination. So they're in a 60-degree angle. So Chiron, Nessus, and Venus are all having a conversation today. It would be really, really easy in this energy as we round out the end of the year to make some very bad thought choices. There's a sense of woundedness with Chiron square Venus. They don't lend each other's light. They lend to each other's shadow. Venus can be very clingy. She can act out in relationship. In Capricorn in particular, the way she might act out is like, well, I'm terribly miserable in the relationship I'm in, but I don't feel good enough to get out of it. So I'll just stay for another 10 years and I'll ruminate, Nessus, about why this is the right thing to do. I'm a failure. Can come up here both with love and money. Venus deals with our money. The way to work with this alternatively would be to lean into some gratitude about who you are and what you've accomplished thus far in your world. Really deal in the world of gratitude for who you are and faith that you are indeed a divine creator being incarnate, and that it is through your mastery that you can, in fact, identify the new choice that can lead to a new timeline. Okay. With Mercury conjunct Pluto at this time. So here's Mercury preparing to go retrograde. Here's Pluto. Mercury is mind, thought, communication. Pluto is endings, fear, growth, and transformation. These two are helping us see things more deeply than usual, than normal. And in particular, we're going to be seeing things about ourselves and our relationships with Venus getting rolled over by that Mercury twice. 3 times actually. Venus will hit that Mercury during this. Mercury will hit that Venus during the retrograde process, and Mercury has already hit that Venus once. Mercury will hit it again. So there's going to be a lot of relationship material coming up for people. How did I show up in relationship? How did I let myself get treated? What are the patterns I've had in relationship? What have I allowed that to make me believe about myself? What do I want to experience instead? There's going to be a lot of relationship consciousness and breakthrough. Okay. Because Pluto deals with so much of what we need to let go of. It also deals with our fears. It also deals with toxicity energy. A lot of our own toxicity that we bring to relationships is going to be revealed. None of us, listen, newsflash, if you're still in a human body, you don't have it all figured out. We all got stuff until the day we exit. So whatever it is that you've been doing in relationship that's having you have relationship experiences that you would like to evolve to a higher level, you're going to get revelation on that as we close this year. Here's what you need to do to get to the next highest level. Okay. And here's the new responses that you need to take on. So whether you get clingy, shut down, give up, reject before you're rejected, overshare, undershare, verbal diarrhea, things you don't mean, or things you do mean. Triangulate other people into your mix. Use sex for an escape. Overcommit. Give too much too fast. Whatever your version of relationship toxicity is, it's going to be revealed to you. You're going to know it before you walk out of 2022. That's going to be a good thing because we've got a major new cycle opening of in relationships in 2023. But in order to access it, and not have more of the same, if you've not loved where you've been, you're going to have to be able to see how you contributed to getting what you've gotten so that you can add some different ingredients instead of the old ones. Okay. Let's see what else is in going on here. Great. There's lots of new choice energy here. Like I said, because these two are also opposing Lilith and Pallas. So we've got Venus, Mercury, and Pluto in opposition to Lilith and Pallas up here in the very emotional water sign of Cancer. I'm going to be honest, with Lilith and Pallas, there could be a bit of defensiveness in this opposition. Just notice where there's self-righteousness and judgment coming up as your patterns are revealed to you. Well, I only did this because they XYZ'd. And if they hadn't blah, 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 then I wouldn't have ever had da 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 da. Notice where blame comes into the mix, because there are mirrors upon mirrors upon mirrors in this. Chances are, if there's something happening on that side of the street, it's also happening over here. If it's feeling irritating at this time, the irritation has purpose. There is a point. The pressure to this, the rumination of it, has a function. And it's so that we have the ability to see it, know it, not ignore it, not spiritual bypass it. And Mars retrograde makes some new choices in Gemini to get some new results on the new timeline, Uranus conjunct the North Node. Okay. So there's great purpose to this energy, great purpose to it. For some, it can be very uncomfortable. Change is not your milieu. For others, it can be very exciting. Like, great, I was trying to figure out how to transform. And for others, this can feel overwhelming because it can feel like there's too much demanding change all at one time. If you want to have a deeper dive on what to focus on and where, what the timing is in your life and in your chart, book some time with me over at kmoonastro.com. We can break down the seasons of this for you. I've definitely noticed that for some of my clients, as I've been reading for them, that the very first thing they need to work on is money stuff, even though love stuff weighs heavily on them. Their chart is saying you need to solve some money problems first and some career stuff. And that's going to be the focus for the next stretch of time. And at this date, on this time, the window then opens for you to focus on love, but they're back to back, not overlapping. And having that information can keep you from being overwhelmed. So if you'd like to have a look at these things, definitely book some time with me. My January calendar's open and I would love to chat with you. Let's get into the first look for the new moon in Cancer. I'm going to walk you through my first impressions, the full moon in Cancer, my first impressions of what that energy looks like. One moment. Amazing. Okay, so here we have the full moon in Cancer taking place there. Let me move that out of the way. My annotation tool, there we go, taking place there. On January 6th, 2023 at 6:08 p.m. if you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States. So this is the energy that the full moon in Capricorn that we just discussed evolves into. And I like it a lot. So we've got Mercury retrograde with the sun. So Mercury's heavily featured during this full moon. We've got Pallas with the moon. Ooh, Pallas, moon, and earth. This is good manifestation energy. I like it a lot. Good for doing water work, water manifestation energy, if that's something that you do. Thank goodness. I think Pholus is going to play less of a role at this time. We'll have gotten Pholus's lessons, but you see the sun is not too far. It's 10 degrees away. I don't think many astrologers would consider that too influential. So I'm going to leave it out because I'm going to just trust that we've all gotten Pholus's lessons and we're moving on. I am really liking seeing Chariclo with Venus. I'm loving seeing Jupiter and Juno together. And this is new beginning in love energy, big time. big time. Emotional, big emotional new beginnings. This is like heart breakthrough kind of energy, like the kind of like unignorable heart breakthrough. Who else is the moon speaking to? We've got moon sextile Uranus. Yeah, this is breakthrough. Uranus brings breakthroughs. And we've got moon square Chiron. Okay, so that's a conversation about wounds. And that's a T square. So woundedness to self. The answer is in the world of relationships. I like it. I like it a lot in Libra partnership. So when I put all this together, what I'm seeing is this full moon in Cancer on January 6th heralds the beginning of a lot of big new relationship energy on the planet for people. Opening of new relationship timelines. No wonder I was guided to speak so much to relationship issues in the lunar update we did today. There's a lot of new relationship stuff going on here. New cycle between the divine counterparts, Jupiter and Juno. Venus speaking to Cheroklo in the sign of quantum leaps means relationship and love blessings coming forward. Partnership being the answer to a T squaring energy between Moon, Sun, and Chiron here. The way to come out of our woundedness is to take the risk to be with others. I'm really digging this. I'm feeling the vibes. I like it a lot. Okay, yeah, it looks like a big romance full moon to me, with a lot of energy surrounding coming together, opening new pathways, which is ironic because normally full moons close paths. But with this full moon, what I'm actually seeing is perchance for many the end of being single. If that's something that you've been trying to manifest is love and relationship or connection and business partnership, I'm seeing that show up as a real option. Like the window for that opens as soon as we hit January. No wonder we've all been so pressured to just deal with our ish in the world of relationships. Because planetarily, we're getting on a brand new timeline. Tons of new cardinal energy bringing in new beginnings as well. So I'm liking this. I'm liking this a lot. I like the way this looks. So I'm going to break down more of it the closer we get to it on the other side of the holidays, as we get into the 1st of January. So look out for that then. But in between now and then, if you'd like some help getting to the bottom of what you need to let go of so you can step into new relationship timelines, let's have a chat about it. You can find me over at kmoonastro.com. Thanks so much. Take great care and bye for now.